Hey guys, Prowl 1701 here, and today I'm going to talk about how the sequel trilogy killed my love for Star Wars. I still enjoy some Star Wars stuff that comes out. I do like The Mandalorian a lot. All 3 seasons, I enjoy it a lot. I liked Tales from the Jedi, the first season. I'm looking forward to another season of that because I've always found Dooku a fascinating character. So I like learning more about Dooku when he was younger and kind of seeing what led to his turn. That was pretty fascinating. I just never really cared for the sequel trilogy, though. I never liked it. It felt like the people who were making it had no clue what they were doing. And you could tell they were making it up as they went along, because the movies don't fit together like pieces of a puzzle. It's like, well, we made episode 7. What do we want to do for 8? Hey, I'll do this. What do we want to do for 9? Actually, we'll do this. They just made it up as they went along, and it doesn't work. Episode 7 was fine when it came out because it promised greater things, and it was very comfortable. Again, a lot like A New Hope, so you knew what you were kind of getting into with it. But a lot of the stuff it sets up, episode 8 completely ignores, because Rian Johnson knows nothing about Star Wars and obviously doesn't care for Star Wars. And so he instead of going off in this direction where everything was set off, he goes off in this direction and makes one of the worst films ever of all time. Like one of the worst movies, period. It's awful. Even if it looks visually pleasing, I will admit, but it's awful. And then they completely have to get J.J. Abrams back because they know they're in trouble. And they go off in this way again, which basically amounts to J.J. Abrams trying to make his episode 8 and 9 and have to cram them into one movie. Because Rise of Skywalker feels like 2 movies crammed into one movie. They should have just had J.J. Abrams do the entire trilogy if that's what they wanted, instead of throwing Rian Johnson episode 8. And so Rise of Skywalker feels crammed, rushed, not well thought out, and a lot of it doesn't make sense. But it uses nostalgia to trick you into not thinking about it too much. Like, you'll be sitting there watching Rise of Skywalker, and you'll be like, well, that doesn't make any... Ooh, there's Lando! Lando's back! They better not kill him off, it's Lando. Then you'll start to be like, well, what the heck is going on there? That doesn't make any... Oh, there's Wedge! It's Wedge! So they use these little moments, nostalgia moments, to remember Wedge? Remember that? Remember? So you don't actually start thinking about how much the movie makes no sense. It's only after you get out of the theater and you're driving home where you're like, that was fucking stupid! That didn't make sense. That didn't make sense. What's this going on about? I mean, the whole the whole ships have Death Star lasers now. Plus, they had to bring back the Emperor, which is stupid. Don't get me wrong, Ian McDiarmid is great. Ian McDiarmid is always great in the role. But the fact it doesn't clearly explain how it brings him back. I mean, I get clones, but it doesn't really go into that. Well, if you read this novel, if I have to read the novel to know what's going on in your story, in your movie has failed. If I have to read tie-in material to be able to understand your movie has failed. Plain and simple, failed. So with me not quite knowing what's going on and having to just guess, there's a problem. Also, the Emperor surviving and coming back in this one undermines the ending of episode 6. And when your new crap Star Wars movies start making the original trilogy, the Holy Grail of Star Wars movies, the masterpiece of the Star Wars universe, the original trilogy, look less, you have screwed up big time. I wish we would have had Luke. Luke is used very badly. Mark Hamill agrees. When Mark Hamill thinks Luke's being used badly, there's a problem. They kill off all of the original cast. We never get a scene with the original characters together, the original 3, and they kill them all off. I mean, I get with Carrie Fisher, they kind of had to, or not with Carrie Fisher, that really makes you wonder. No. I get with Leia they had to. Carrie Fisher passed away, which was terrible and sad. But they were kind of limited options on what they could do there. Personally, I would have recast the role because I don't really think Carrie Fisher would have cared. Carrie Fisher's very not let things phase her type. She just kind of seems like she rolled with anything. So if she died, I could imagine her spirit just going, why are they not just recasting the role with someone who could do the role? Instead of going the route they did, so we didn't get much of Leia in episode 9. Luke doesn't feel like Luke. It just does not feel like Luke. His actual death scene, that's a heck of a way for a Jedi to go out. It's probably the most Jedi way I've ever seen a Jedi go out. So the way he died doesn't bother me in that. I actually enjoyed the way he's killed off. But I would like to have had more of him. Like had him in episode 7, had him in episode 8. Like the ending of season 2 of Mandalorian should have been the ending of episode 7. With Luke showing up to save the day at the end and kicking ass. That's how episode 7 should have ended. And then episode 8, you could have had more of him and then had him killed off at the end of that, maybe. Or maybe had it happen at the beginning of 9 and had him show up in the Force Ghost to help by the end of 9. Killing off Harrison Ford for no other reason than Harrison Ford probably wanted it. And they didn't want to pay him again. The ship suddenly needing fuel. I've never known ships in the Star Wars universe to need fuel. But hey, gotta have fuel for plot. Then you have the whole side quest down in the cantina in episode 8. That's just wasted time. They really, really killed my love of Star Wars. I still love the original trilogy. I still love the prequels. I've always liked the prequels. And that's interesting to me that for some people, the sequels have made them appreciate the prequels more. I've always enjoyed the prequels. My favorite Star Wars movie is Revenge of the Sith. It's interesting that in Disney stuff coming up now, like Ahsoka, one of the highlights of Ahsoka for people is Hayden Christensen coming back as Anakin. And I'm like, I can remember a time when he was, by part of the fandom, reviled as Anakin. People couldn't stand Hayden Christensen in the role. One of the things they didn't like about the prequels. So it's easy to see how much that's changed, although compared to the stuff coming out now. Now, I always thought he was fine in the role. Again, I like the prequels. I never had an issue with him in the role. But it's been interesting to see how that perception of him's changed, and he's one of the highlights of coming back to Obi-Wan and Ahsoka. Obi-Wan was okay. It does not justify its existence. It doesn't need to be there. I mean, as a watch-through, it was fine, I guess, but does it need to exist? Does it justify its existence? No, not at all. Nice as it is to see Hayden and Ewan back in the roles. For me, that's the only thing I really enjoyed about it was it's fun to see them running around playing their characters. They're both still very good at it, but I just... it's good fan fiction. I haven't even watched Ahsoka. I've seen clips on YouTube. I've read the reviews. I've never got into Ahsoka really as a character because I'm not a big fan of Clone Wars. I never considered Clone Wars canon really because the idea of Darth Maul surviving that fall is ridiculous when he got cut in half in episode 1 for me. So I've never really considered the Clone Wars canon. Ahsoka's a well-written character. And Rosario Dawson does a good job playing her. But I never got into Ahsoka or Clone Wars, really. No, I don't have the affinity I have. That's why I don't collect lightsabers like I used to. I used to love collecting lightsabers. I don't even know how many of them I had at one time. It was a lot. I've still got probably about 12 or 15 of them, although I'm tempted to sell some of those. Aside from the just expensive nature of the hobby, and I try to be far more practical with my money now. I mean, as we can see. But it's more just me not getting into Star Wars as much, aside from like Mandalorian and Tales of the Jedi, and the occasional Star Wars game. I did like Fallen Order a lot. I haven't played Survivor yet, but I really enjoyed Fallen Order. I really hope that remake of KOTOR makes it out eventually. But yeah, the sequel trilogy just took Star Wars in a direction I didn't really care for. I wasn't a big fan of Rogue One either. It was okay. It was all right. It had some really badass scenes in it. I'll give it that. You know, of course, the Vader scene's badass. And some other well shot scenes. Like it's visually impressive. But I wasn't a big fan of it. It just tonally didn't feel like Star Wars to me, which is, to be fair, is kind of the point. But it just didn't really work for me. A lot of the main cast playing the Rogue One group, the actors, some of them work for me, some of them don't. Like the girl playing Jyn Erso doesn't really work for me. I really feel sorry for whoever wrote Dark Forces with Kyle Katarn, and Kyle Katarn's the girl that travels with him. Because that's basically what Rogue One is. But because Disney are terrible, terrible people, they didn't want to pay money to use Kyle Katarn and her, so they basically invented Kyle Katarn and whatever her name is, proxies with Jyn Erso, whose name is very similar to Kyle Katarn's partner. And then whatever the guy, Andor, is that his name? Andor, I don't know. Who looks a lot like Kyle Katarn. So yeah, some people got screwed out of money on that, let's just be honest. And because of that, I've never watched Andor. I know Andor is supposed to be really good, but I already know how his story ends, so I don't really care. Well, it's all about seeing how he gets there. I don't care. Andor was never an interesting character to me. The actor who plays him is... So I never really cared about that, so I've never sat down to watch it. That's just where I am with Star Wars these days. I don't even watch the old ones anymore. I have not gone back. I watched the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy back when they first came up on Disney Plus. Back when like the 4K versions first came out. Was that a couple years ago? I went through and watched them just to see how it looked. I own, you know, DVDs and Blu-rays. I haven't watched those in years. I just don't go back to them anymore. I'm kind of burned out, because what's the point in watching the original trilogy when I know the crap that's coming for these characters in their future? So, be honest, in my head canon, the extended universe is canon. You know, Heir to the Empire, Visions of the Future, Spectres of the Past, the Jedi Academy trilogy. That's my head canon, honestly. I stick with the original extended universe because it just treated the characters far, far better. Plus, you gotta have Mara Jade. Mara Jade's amazing. So that's just kind of my ramble on it, and kind of how I hate the new Disney stuff a lot. It just kind of killed my love for Star Wars. And you get this impression that the people writing it, some of them anyway, have no idea what they're doing. I mean, obviously, John knows what he's doing, and Dave know what they're doing. They've done some good stuff with Star Wars, to be fair. But it's obviously Kathleen Kennedy has no idea what she's doing. Or either that, or she knows exactly what she's doing and just doesn't care. But yeah, Star Wars just isn't what it was for me. So I want to know what you think. So comment down below and let me know your thoughts on the current state of Star Wars. Also, don't forget to click the like button and the subscribe button as well. If you're watching this on the Another Sci-Fi channel, down in the description there are links to the Patreon, links to the Amazon wish list, links to... my mind's going blank. My P.O. box is down there, all that fun stuff. I want to get a shout out to some of my top tier patrons, Stephen Crane, Colin Coney, and Finn Perkins. I appreciate their support, as I do the support of all of my patrons. YouTube memberships are available as well on the Another Sci-Fi Guy channel, where I mostly talk about Doctor Who. Most importantly, thank you for watching.